Hi everybody. So today I'm going to show you how to create some really random looking debris in Blender, and what I'll use is the Blender game engine. It's much simpler than you might think, and so we directly start. At first we delete the default cube, so select it by right click on it, then hit X and delete, and now we'll add a new mesh. At first we add a ground plane by hitting Shift A and select plane. This plane is where all our debris and the different planks and such lie down or lay on. And actually it's really small, so we scale it up by hitting S. And now we take the mouse over here. Yeah, that's nice, I think. Yeah, I think that's the right size, maybe a bit bigger, so that's nice. And now we start adding some different planks and some debris. So at first we hit Shift A and add a new plane, and actually you can see it here. And now to change things on it, we go into edit mode, but as you can see it actually intersects with our ground plane. So to only view this object in this 3D space, hit the divide button on your numpad, and now it's any other object is hidden, and you just have our ground plane in the middle. So we go into edit mode by hitting tab, and we scale it by hitting S and X. So we just scale on this direction, like it's small and thin, and now we extrude it so it gets some depth by hitting E, moving the mouse up a bit, so not too much. And actually, yeah, we want, because it's debris, it's not a perfect plank like this one, and therefore we will deform it a bit. So to deform, we add some loop cuts by hitting Ctrl R and moving our mouse scroller. We can change the amount of by changing the mouse wheel, we can change the amount of cuts made. So 2 on this side is nice, and maybe 4 on this side. Okay, so we now go to top view by hitting 7 on our numpad, and what is important now is you hit O on your keyboard, and over here select random. Yeah, so you make sure this button here is blue and this one is set to random. Now we select some by hitting B and then this and select them, and we hitting G to move them around just a little bit, not too much. This is really unrealistic, but only a bit, and yeah, like this, and move this one too, and we move those ones too, and actually that gave us a nice deformed plank. And now we duplicate it by hitting Shift D and move it over here a bit to the right, and now we go again into edit mode and move it around a bit, oops, like this. Yeah, just to change it a bit. I think actually this looks nice. So we have two different types of planks, and what we'll do next is we give them properties so to fall down correctly. At first, what is important you should do is select both by hitting Shift and then right click on both, and now over here go to Origin and Origin to Geometry, which defines the center point in the geometry, and otherwise the physics won't work correctly. Actually, what I did in my video, you might have seen, is I added also some bricks, which we can do now by hitting Shift A and a cube, and actually it's not at the right place, so we clear its location by hitting Alt G and scale it down, of course, and now scale it into y-axis by hitting scale y, white, then hit type 2 on the numpad, scale it down again, so this gives us a nice brick. And yeah, actually I think I'll leave it like this. Of course, if you want more detail in your final scene, you can of course add much more objects, different objects, and increase the detail on every object you use. So now we give it the right properties by going here on the top. We select Blender Game, and you can see it changed over here, and this is what we actually want. And we go to the physics panel, which is way on the right, and then we make sure you have this object in the middle selected, and we select the rigid body. And what's important to make it work correctly is to check collision bounds and convex hull, and you give it a small margin like 0.025, which works best for me, and do the same for any of the other objects, 0.025. And actually for this one, you don't, for the brick, you don't need to select convex hull, because it's not a changed object, but just a deformed box. So we can select for collision bounds box, and also rigid body, and 0.025. And this will allow us to correctly, or will allow the computer to correctly animate them falling down onto our ground plane. So to bring the ground plane back, just hit divide again on our numpad, and you can see everything is back there. And if we move those three objects up by hitting G and Z, so we move them in the G axis, Z axis, and if we now play the animation by hitting P, or actually run the game, you can see them fall down. So one thing to notice is that they are not the right normals. So you can see that over here. So you're looking actually inside. To fix that, go into edit mode with any object, select everything by twice hitting A, and then Control N, and you do the same with this one, and this will flip the normals outside. And run again the animation, you can see the box is not working right. So this is also because our ground plane just consists out of 4 vertices. So we subdivide it by hitting V or W. Subdivide, I don't know, 10 times should be fine. Let's see, maybe it works better, and actually it does. And what we do next is I like to have those 3 objects in a different layer, so we can actually only work on those. So we select them and hit M, move them to the second layer, and now we can show the other one by shift clicking on the one over here. And we now make lots and lots of differently rotated duplicates. So we rotate them by hitting double R, or tapping double R, and which will rotate them. Then we duplicate them, rotate them again, like this. Yeah, it's really the thing, you get some variation in it, and make sure your objects don't intersect. That's the only important thing to make sure. Anything else won't matter that much. Yeah, like this. And now you might select them all and duplicate them again by hitting Shift D, and rotate them around, move them. Yeah, and always make sure you actually don't you don't make them intersect. Now we select them again, duplicate them again. It's that's the only time-consuming process in this technique, that you always have to duplicate everything. And again, like this, and we can just do up there like this. it's really important to make sure nothing is intersecting, so always carefully look at your objects. And actually here we have an intersection, so we just move this one over here, so it's no intersection anymore. And there's an intersection too, like this, and here too, this, and here too. So now we select everything again, and let's just duplicate this one upwards 3 times. Yeah, so now we also add the first layer, and if we now play back the animation by hitting P, you should see them all drop down on your plane. And this actually looks like some really cool debris. So this is a really fast way to create it. And you notice that they're all looking really random, and they actually have fallen correctly, so there are no overlapping objects or such. This would be a huge time-consuming process to do by hand modeling. So now, how to save this status? If we hit escape to go back out of the game, you can see they are back in this status here. So to change that, we at first go to the world settings, set up the substeps to 5, and set the FPS to 24 or such. Yeah, should be fine. So it doesn't really matter too much, but if you want only to wait a short time, you should set it to 24 or such. And now go to game and record animation. And if we now hit P, it records the IPO animation of any object which has just fallen down. And before you press escape, you wait until all objects have stopped moving. This way there's no velocity in it, and it looks like some still debris. And I think it just stopped, so just hit escape. And if you click now on the timeline somewhere, you can actually see the animation. And now we go all the way to the end. Then yeah, I hope your computer can handle it, but now we go to 3D graph editor. And my computer takes a while, but finally it shows up, and because it's a lot of objects in here, so it's 150 objects in my scene, and there are lots of IPOs, and we just delete them by hitting X, delete keyframes. And now we can go back in our scene, and you can actually see everything stays in place, although we scrub through our timeline. And you can move objects also and change things manually if you'd like to. And one important thing to not forget is to deselect record animation function. So go to game and deselect record animation. And this is actually how you add some really random looking debris in Blender. And yeah, to make it more detailed or such, you could add more different planks. You could spend more time on these end caps here of the planks, which in my case just look boring, and also create some deformed bricks here. But still, I think for a game it's really great to have some low poly yeah, debris, and you can move it around. What you can actually do is go to the second layer, deselect the lamp, and now select everything and hit Control, or actually select something and hit Control J, and now you have any object and only one object. And this is a really great way to do it, and you can move it around or whatever, and you have those all together. And you could also make the cursor to there, origin, oops, and select this one, geometry to origin to 3D cursor. And now this 3D cursor is on the bottom of this mesh, and if you move it around, you could just duplicate it and, I don't know, move it some places in your game or such, like this or this. Yeah, and it actually looks like some nice pieces of debris, and You could now walk through it or whatever, use it for your game or for your animation, and the more time you spend on detail objects to be thrown around, the better your animation finally will look. So I hope I could explain you the technique and have fun, and we see you soon.